Okie dokie, welcome back to the channel. So here's something that a lot of you probably won't seen for a while, if you have been with the channel for a bit. If you're new to the channel, probably your first time seeing this. I do have another 2 videos relating to this engine in my video section if you want to go and check that out. But yeah, that'll just get you up to scratch if you haven't seen it. But anyway, here we go. Here's the Ford block that was originally seized, and what I'm doing to it is I'm rebuilding the bottom end because the bottom end was the part that was seized. So in the first video, you'll remember that we pulled the crank out and we found that number 3 rod bearing had seized on the crank. I got the crank linished by my local machine shop, and I also refurbished the injection pump in part 2. So that was also seized, so we unlocked that, put a kit in it, so that's all fitted up now. Recently, I received quite a large parcel in the post, and in this parcel is all of the parts I need to put this back together and get it going again. So in today's video, what I want to try and do is get most of the bottom end of the engine back together. So crank, put the rods in, new rings in the pistons, put the oil pump on. I still need to do a bit of work to the sump, as if you may recall in the first video I was pressing it out and I accidentally popped a hole in it, so we still need to repair the sump. But other than that, the rods and the crank can go in, and so can the oil pump. So what I'm trying to do is got to try and get that all together today, hopefully. So I guess we should start with the bare basics, and what we'll do is we'll put our main bearings in with our caps as well as the crankshaft, because we can't really do anything much more to it now without the crankshaft being fitted up to the block. So I'll put this down, we'll roll the motor over, and we'll have a look in this parcel and see what we've got in there. So first thing I should probably show you is a crank. And the thing looks absolutely marvellous. Really, really good. So this is the front of the engine. As you recall, that number 3 rod bearing was seized. So this is the one that had all the bearing material stuck to it. And I was hoping that I'd be able to get it finished out. And look at that finish. Absolutely spectacular. That was just with a linish, so very, very lucky that I could just get that linish and it didn't need a grind, because a grind would probably be much more expensive and it'd mean that I'd have to go oversize on my main bearings. So to probably look at the kit that we got right now. This here is our bottom kit. So we've got our sump gasket, rear main seal gasket, rear main seal, front main. That's the gasket for the rear main seal as well. There is a cork one. A couple other things, I think the timing cover gaskets in this one as well. Yes. A couple of other little accessory gaskets, whatnot. But yeah, no, that's one we probably won't be tearing into just yet. I have a feeling the headset, however, we will be. Headset's got all of our little stops for our nuts on the rod bolts, so we'll probably be using them. Yeah, other than that, the rest of the stuff's all for like your valve gear. You got your seals and caps and collets and all that sort of stuff. So again, probably won't be using much out of that kit either. Got a set of injector lines, as it did not come with them when I bought the motor, which was a bit unfortunate because these are actually pretty expensive. But nonetheless, this place had them pretty cheap. I did get all my parts from a place in England called MR, and the Nuffield has a lot of MR parts in it from when I rebuilt that. If you want to go and watch the Nuffield rebuild where I'm using those parts, feel free to do so. I have made a series up in my videos list. But anyway, yeah, we've got another lot more small stuff under the gasket kits though. So we've got our push rods. All the other ones were very, very rotten, and I thought I may as well just buy a whole new set. So we have a full set of 6 push rods. Right here is a pilot bearing that goes in the back of your crankshaft. So on some models it's a bit different. The one There's one with the exact same motor as this at work. It's on a 4100 though, and it doesn't have the bearing in the back of the crank. The bearing sits in the flywheel on the one at work, which is a bit different to this one, whereas this one, that pilot bearing sits in the back of that crankshaft. So we'll have to pull that out of there. If I haven't already, I might have actually pulled it out, I'm not sure. But we'll find that later. Over here, fuel filter assembly. Really cheap from these guys as well. Cheapest I've ever seen them, so that's pretty good. It has got a genuine CAB filter on it too, which is pretty alright. Right here, we've got our main bearing set, so we'll definitely need that today, so I'll put that over here. Got our oil pump, again, another thing we'll need today, so that can sit over here. Ring sets, again, another thing we'll need, because we'll be putting all them onto our pistons. Conrod set, again, another one we'll need, so that can sit over there. What we've got here is an injector nozzle. Now one of the injectors, I think it was number 2 injector, the nozzle is all rotten. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is just send the whole set of injectors off to a diesel injection shop, get them to service all 3, and then while they're at it, they can put the nozzle into number 2. Because I was talking to some of the blokes at work, and one of them is like really intelligent on injectors and diesel injection, and he says you need a lot of special tools for it. You can do it without the tools, but it's very risky, and the machine shops will have all those tools. So I think I'm just going to send it to them, and they can work that out for me. Last but not least, we've got a full set of head bolts. So they didn't come with the motor for some reason. I've got the ones for the rockers, but these are the head bolts for all the outside of your head. The rocker ones just go in the middle. Alrighty, so I've now got all the parts together that we need to put this bottom end together. We've got a crank, rod bearings, main bearings, 3 ring sets, and an oil pump. So we'll get all them together. The rest of the bits should be sitting over there behind the outboards. So I'll go and grab them. We'll start cleaning them up with brake clean. We'll check out the bores. I don't think they need another hone. I did hone them and oil them not that long ago. I have been honing them quite often to try and keep them nice and clean and build on my crosshatch. But I'm trying not to hone them too much because I don't want to take away too much material. But as I said before, what we're going to do now is roll the motor over, put our crank in first, then I'll gap all the rings, make sure they're in spec. Then we'll start fitting them to the pistons, fit our conrod bearings to the rods. Then we'll fit our rods to the crank, and then once the crank's in, obviously we can put our oil pump in, and we can start maybe even getting to the front timing case. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go. I'll oil them all up, ready to go in. Alright, first bearing has been seated. Very, very exciting. Alright, move on to our next ones. Not the right one. To get that out of there. The next one, getting ready to go in. There we go. This one's all seated. quickly pop a little bit of oil around them so they don't get all contaminated. Put oil in the journal way. And there we go, a bit of oil on those bearings wouldn't help. Alright. The next one's fitted. Roll that one up as well. Imagine this engine's going to smoke quite a lot when we get it going. The amount of oil I put in the Nuffield, it smoked white for a fair while before it cleared out. And I imagine that was just because of all the bores being oiled up. But yeah, all the oil that's going to be flicking around this one. This one's had a whole bottom end rebuild. Well, it's going to have a whole bottom end rebuild, so I imagine it's going to smoke quite a lot worse than the Nuffield did. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we do get it going. I will be excited if we do. Alright, there's all of our mains put into our block. So now that they're fitted, what we can do is we can fit our crankshaft to the engine. So I have marked, I'll show you this before I put it in. I have marked on the crankshaft where the right there where the dot to align the timing marks is. So actually what I'll do is I'll oil these journals up. It's probably not a bad idea. Quickly do that with the little oil gun here. That way then we're not putting the crank in dry. Just all of the main journals, we don't need to do the rod ones yet. Oh, one more journal left. Alright, there we go. Crankshaft is all now nicely oiled up. What I'm going to do with the engine, I'm just going to flip it right over to the side. As I said before, I just wanted to show you what we were doing because I don't do that enough. But if I flip the engine all the way over now, you'll still be able to see me putting the crank in. So just quickly take the weight off of this stand. And there we have it. Alright, so now, big moment, dropping the crank in. So we'll get it round to the right orientation, or at least try to. And then pick it up. And Look at that. I think that looks pretty damn good. And just drop it in. Let's go up a little bit. There we go. Need to rotate it around 1 gear notch. There we go. Bloody spectacular. Alright, crank is now seated in place. I'll get to the camera and give you a quick look actually. It's probably alright if I do. Rightio, crank is all seated. Seems to turn quite nicely. Just realign all the timing marks so we know. It's doubly correct. Yes. Might just pull this cover off and just double check. Even though I have marked it, I want to just doubly check and make sure that that's exactly timed. I don't want anything happening up in the top end when we go to start it because it's out of time. So we'll just double check. So I got this little lip seal race free, and those 2 dots are aligning perfectly on the crank and the main idler gear. If we check the idler gear with the cam, those 2 dots are aligned, and also the ones on the injection pump are aligned. So in theory, this motor should be in exactly perfect time the way it is right now. So yeah, a little bit time consuming taking that off, but in the long run, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So at least I know for now that the motor is in exactly perfect time and we don't need to worry about it having any clashing with valves when we start it up. Right, so now we've got to focus on these caps for our main bearings. They have been sitting for a while in the dust, as you can see. They've also inherited a little, I don't know what that is, like a grasshopper or a praying mantis, something like that. I think it's a praying mantis. But yeah, no. Anywho, we are going to clean them up, just quick smart, so that they're nice and ready for when we put them back together. But yeah, they've got arrows going to the front of the motor, so that's pretty handy. We know at least know where they need to sit back on, and I've lined them up from front to rear of the motor, so we know where they have to go back on in that respect. So as you can see in front of us, we've now got all of our main caps cleaned up and fitted. Got all the new bearings oiled up and in there as well, and it's still rotating, so I must be doing something right, which is pretty good. But yeah, so what we're going to do now is get the torque wrench and go over them. I want to do them in my regular 3-step sequence. So because the torque spec for these, I think the main caps are 120. I think they're around 115 to 125, the manual said, in foot-pounds. So I'm just going to go to 120 for them because that's in the middle. And as I said, we'll do the 3-step, so it'll be 40, then 80, then 120. So yeah, we'll get the torsion bar and we'll quickly buzz them up to their required spec. I should mention also that when I fitted this rear main cap, I had to put these little rubber grommets in there. They come in the kit. So I did say that I wouldn't be using the bottom set today, but I did actually end up using it. And I thought I may as well just rack the crank seal in while I had it fixed up. So save me having to smash it in later. So I just, yeah, put it in, then put the cap down on top. But yeah, so that's all done there. Won't have to worry about that seal. But as I said earlier, there is actually the gasket surface. Now while we're around here, I did say about the pilot bearing. That's where your pilot bearing is. So we'll have to pull that one out at some stage and put the new one in. But that'll be a job for when we get the motor actually back together on the ground, because it's a bit hard to pull it out with the stand in the way at the moment. Righto, so let's torque up our main bolts. We've got it set to 40 foot-pounds. That's already done. It's also already done. Now up to 80. Alright, that's 80 now. Alright, double check that that crankshaft still rotates, which it does. Awesome. So we can now proceed to go up to 120 on our torque bar. There we go, set to 120, so we'll lock it in at that. And yeah, we'll crank it down to the final torque spec. Ooh, Christ. Alright, I'll just do one more click on all of them just to make sure they're 100% good. Yes. Yep. Alright. Main caps are all torqued down now. So back our torque wrench off. I'll leave it here because I will need it later on for the rod bolts. But for now we don't need it, so I'll back it off so I don't wreck it. Moment of truth. Will the crank still rotate? Yes, yes it will. Pardon me. No plans either, which is awesome. Alright, so got all that done now. So, as I said before, what we're going to do, clean all of our pistons up. I'm going to do the ring gap now. And then that will then, once we've got our pistons cleaned up and the new rings on, allow us to put our rods in, lubricate all of our journals for our crank, and then we can torque our rods to spec. And that'll be the midsection of the engine done. Then we can move over to our oil pump, put that on, and I think that's about as far as I'm going to get today. So that'll probably be the video all done there and then. Rightio, so what I'm going to do now is check the ring gap in the ball. So I've pressed this ring in with one of the crowns of the piston, and I've already got a gap here of 23 thou. So that fits in there quite nicely. It's got no play in it. Now, being an intermediate ring, the spec for this one is 10 thou to 35 thou. The top ring is a little bit larger of a gap. It's 12 to 38 thou, I believe. But this one being 23 thou is in spec. So I'll check the other, there's another intermediate ring in there, so I'll pull this one out and then check the other one. I'll just do it on one cylinder. The rest will be exactly the same, so I won't take you all through that. But yeah, that's what the intermediate ring looks like. It's got that little lip that you can probably see. Here's another one. So that's the other intermediate ring. So they both go in the middle of your piston. So we'll check the gap in this one now. Hopefully it's around about the same. Get our piston. And just use the crown to snug it in like so. So there we have it.
see if the 23 thou fits in that. A little bit tighter, but yes it does. So that intermediate ring is also in spec. Then we'll move over to this one here, which is our top ring. This is a top ring because it's got no bells and whistles, it's got no lip on it. So this one has a little bit more leeway as well compared to the intermediate ones. So slightly press that in. Here's our crown. Just seat it up. There we are. And we'll see if this one's the same. Bit more. I'm guessing this one's going to be about 25. Possibly. Push the 25 thou out. There's a 24. And I think that one's 25. Grab that one. No, that one's too tight. Go down to the 24. There we go. That one fits in there quite nicely, nice and snug. So that set of rings is in spec, which is excellent, what we're looking for. Now all I have to do, now I've checked those ones, I just have to check the rest of them in the bores, make sure they're all right. If they are, we'll go ahead and clean our pistons up and fit them to the pistons. Alright, so now ready to put in number 1 piston. Got all the rings on it, they're all gapped. We'll just drop it in, nice and easy. There we go. Make sure that's aligned with the bore before I start whacking it in. We'll get our other mallet and just lightly tap it down. Right, there we go. Number 1's home. So what we'll do, put our ring compressor down, just double check that it's all the way in, which looks like it is. Just knock it down a little bit more if I can. That's as far as it's going. So now we can do, got the new bearing in the cap already, it's all oiled up. So what we'll do is find the 1 marking. Yep, that's it. Should just slot up in there like so. Rightio, so we now got this piston in and the rod bolts are tight. They're not torqued. I'll wait until I get all the rods fitted and we'll torque them up. But what we're going to do now is move on to the rest of the pistons. So I'm just going to time lapse it of me doing all the gaps for the rings and whatnot. I may just put the pistons in, I don't know. But yeah, I am going to time lapse it though, because otherwise it's going to take forever to finish watching me blabber on about doing the same stuff over and over again. Rightio, so we now have all 3 of our pistons fitted to the block. I've got the rod bolts fitted, so what we're going to do now is turn it over. I'm just going to quickly lay the torque wrench on them and torque them up to spec. So yeah, there we have it. They're all fitted. So as I said, yep, we're just going to put the torque wrench into it. Now I've had a bit of a change of heart. I kind of don't want to put the oil pump on. I was having a think to myself, because if I fit the oil pump I still need to fix that sump up. So the oil pump's just going to be sitting out here exposed. It's a bit different with the crank because the bearings have sort of sealed it all up. However, with the oil pump, because it's just got the screen there, it's all sort of left open and dry for any contaminants to get in there, and I kind of don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the oil pump for now, and we'll come back to that when I get that sump welded up, so that we can just put the sump on and be done with it, and then we can start focusing on the top end of the engine. But without further ado, we will torque these nuts up and we will get on our way. So 65 foot-pounds is the lucky number for us today, and that will be what we are torquing these down to. So what we need is an 11/16 socket and extension, and then obviously our torque wrench set to 65 foot-pounds. So we'll set that now. What we got there? 23. Okay, 59. Rightio, we'll set to 65 pound-foot, or foot-pounds, sorry. So, yeah, we are now ready to start torquing them down. Just double check them all. Right, that's all them torqued to spec. Once again, back our torque wrench all the way off. Relieve that spring of that pressure, and leave us with a fresh torque wrench when we come back. Right, so we'll just double check that this motor still rotates, which it does. Bloody beautiful. Quite easily too, which was a bit different to what it was before. So we're getting places. But anyway, I'll just flip this back over so you can see. There we go. Lock it in. But yeah, that is probably going to be it for today's video on the Ford motor. Nonetheless, if you have stayed till this point in the video, however, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd appreciate it even more if you could even give me a like and a subscribe, just to help build the channel a bit. And that way then you won't miss another video of this old Ford engine rebuild. So, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.